Right now, on to the point. Protest in Los Angeles. What started as demonstrations over ICE raids.
I still think it's not fair that they're just dragging people out of here.
Turning into chaos.
That motorcyclist being hauled in here.
Tonight, as California sues the Trump administration for federalizing the state's National Guard.
No doubt there's no rebellion, there's no invasion.
He made this up. This is a manufactured crisis.
And hundreds of Marines are deployed. The president now talking about arresting Governor Newsome.
Gavin likes the publicity, but I think it's the right thing.
How state lawmakers are responding and their message to immigrants living in fear.
Your elected officials, we all stand with you. You are not alone.
Good evening. As always, thank you so much for joining us on To The Point. I'm Alex Bell, and we are following breaking news tonight as protests continue and a major legal battle over the state's rights is now underway. This is a live picture over Los Angeles tonight. Just hours ago, Governor Gavin Newsom announced President Trump is deploying another 2,000 California National Guard troops in Los Angeles, in addition to the 2,000 already ordered. That's after California sued today, saying the president cannot do this. President Trump also deployed 700 Marines just hours ago, and we are also following demonstrations right here in Sacramento. We're also talking with our political analysts and hearing from our state leaders. But first, Melissa Don is in downtown Los Angeles, setting the scene for us tonight.
Alex, a developing situation here in downtown Los Angeles as Los Angeles police still have a strong skirmish line all surrounding the federal buildings and courthouse. You can see the presence of law enforcement. This as we anticipate additional California National Guardsmen to be deployed here to the area.
A fourth day of anti-ICE protest in Los Angeles. Tensions flaring over the weekend after President Trump deployed National Guard troops, bypassing California Governor Gavin Newsom. The first time a president has done so in 60 years. The president today not backing down.
Thank goodness we sent out some wonderful National Guard. They've really helped, and a lot of problems that we're having out there.
The demonstrations kickstarting after immigration authorities conducted a series of sweeps, arresting more than 100 people on Friday. This young woman's father was taken into custody. At a rally today, she called for his release and those who took him to face consequences.
And we demand that they are freed and released to their families inside the United States.
LA's police chief says most of the protests in the city have been peaceful, but it's concerned of the scattered violence, calling it disgusting.
Tonight we had individuals out there shooting commercial-grade fireworks at our officers. That can kill you.
Law enforcement seen on horseback as firework explodes in front of them. A line of Waymo vehicles set on fire, as well as a police car. The LAPD says some officers were injured, dozens of demonstrators arrested, officers in riot gear using tear gas and flashbangs to disperse protesters. LA's mayor calling for peaceful protest.
I call on all Angelenos to continue expressing your right, your anger, your outrage, but to do it peacefully.
On Sunday, protesters shutting down the 101 freeway for some time. Apparent flashbangs going off as police work to reopen the major roadway. Officials calling it an unlawful assembly.
At this point, we're hearing possible flashbangs or possible less lethal force that LAPD officers are using into the crowd. This is, of course, as everyone is anticipating. You hear that again right now as the crowd here is anticipating those 700 active duty Marines to be arriving to this area in Los Angeles. This is a situation we're monitoring closely. In Los Angeles, I'm Melissa Don, ABC 10. Alex, back to you.
All right, Melissa, thank you so much. And what you're looking at right now are new photos from the military as the National Guard started staging in Los Angeles. As for those 700 Marines on their way under the direction of President Donald Trump, they are expected to arrive in Los Angeles over the next 24 hours. And tonight, there is a major legal battle growing over states' rights. California is now suing the Trump administration over President Trump federalizing the National Guard to send them into L.A. Over the weekend, President Trump went around California Governor Gavin Newsom, who is the commander-in-chief of the California National Guard. State Attorney General Rob Bonta announced the lawsuit just hours ago, saying the order abused the federal government's authority, violated the 10th Amendment and federal law.
We think we have a really strong case based on the statute, based on the elements set forth therein. No doubt there's no rebellion, there's no invasion.
Tonight, Governor Newsome adding his comments to the lawsuit, saying every governor, red or blue, should reject this outrageous overreach. Tonight, talks continue over the possible arrest of Governor Gavin Newsom. President Trump is accusing Newsom of interfering with federal law enforcement, and border czar Tom Homan suggesting arresting the governor. Here's what Governor Newsom had to say to Homan just over the weekend.
The fear, the horror, the hell is this guy? Come after me, arrest me. Let's just get it over with. Tough guy. You know, I don't give a damn, but I care about my community.
Here was President Trump's response at the White House just today.
I like Gavin Newsom. He's a nice guy, but he's grossly incompetent. I would do it if I were Tom. I think it's great.
Tonight, House Speaker Mike Johnson is supporting Trump's statements, saying in part, quote, what he has done is a complete dereliction of duty as usual. And tonight, in an exclusive interview with Lieutenant Governor Eleni Kunalakis, I asked how seriously people should take the statements from President Trump supporting the idea of arresting a sitting governor. And if it actually happens, what does this really mean for Kunalakis, who is second in line?
There's absolutely nothing that the governor can be arrested for. He hasn't broken the law. He hasn't done anything wrong. So again, it's just all part of this chaos and things that are extremely deeply disturbing and very disruptive for people in their lives.
Are there any conversations being had about what would that mean for your role as lieutenant governor if that were to happen?
Look, it's just all bizarre. If the president were to order for the governor to be arrested for no reason, I would imagine I would probably be right behind the governor and then my successor behind them. I mean, none of this really makes any sense. There's no legal framework or justification or precedent for any of this. And so again, when I think about people watching right now trying to make sense of it all, it's very difficult because there is no precedent and there is no foundation within the rule of law for any of this.
And we know the National Guard's already there. Now we're hearing that Marines are being deployed over the next 24 hours. What is the state doing to de-escalate tensions right now in Los Angeles?
He's sent these ICE agents into places of work indiscriminately, taking people into custody, regardless of whether or not they know, in fact, whether they're documented. And all of this, as we know, has generated what, as of yesterday, were relatively small and mostly peaceful protests, which, by the way, where in the circumstances where they were becoming not peaceful, local law enforcement fully had the capabilities to respond. But instead, again, here is Donald Trump escalating, throwing fuel on the fire, saying that this is, akin to the LA riots of many years ago, taking control of the National Guard, which, again, the governor is sued because there is no precedent, and this also appears to be highly illegal.
Tonight, ABC 10's Becca Habegger is hearing from more lawmakers at the state capitol.
Yeah, Alex, both Democratic and Republican state lawmakers held news conferences today where they addressed the protests in L.A. and President Trump's federalizing of the California National Guard against Governor Newsom's wishes. Both sides had some pretty strong words.
This federal government, they not like us.
That's Democratic Assemblymember Tina McKinnon of Inglewood denouncing Trump sending the California National Guard into Los Angeles amid protests against federal immigration raids.
We have a simple message for current President of the United States. Stop. Just stop.
On Monday, more than 24 Democratic state lawmakers, many from the LA delegation, gathered to voice their opposition to Trump deploying the California National Guard against Governor Newsom's wishes.
Trump claims to be concerned about the safety of Angelenos, but that is a lie. This is not about law and order, because if it was about law and order, he would listen to our local law enforcement. Instead, Trump wants chaos. He wants disruption.
Some say if federal officials arrest Governor Newsom,
he's going to have to arrest every single one of us. We all took an oath that we take seriously to uphold and defend the Constitution. We do not what you are seeing from this president, and it's hard to call him a president in this moment because he's acting like a dictator, is he is trying to jail political opponents.
Republican Assemblymember Joe Patterson said he doesn't think arresting the governor is the right thing to do.
As much as I disagree with him trying to stoke hysteria into the LA region, I don't think he necessarily should be arrested for that. But I think it's important that he shows more leadership and he stops creating all this hysteria.
More than a dozen Republican state lawmakers held their own news conference Monday, focusing on the budget but also addressing the protests in LA.
Right now, I'm concerned about our frontline law enforcement personnel in Los Angeles, but I'm concerned about everyone caught in the crossfire.
They criticized the agitators who are causing destruction, burning cars and throwing objects at federal officers. They say Governor Newsome has failed to contain the chaos.
In announcing that lawsuit we mentioned earlier, Attorney General Rob Bonta pointed out the LA County Sheriff's Office is the largest sheriff's office in the nation, and LAPD is the country's third largest police department. He says local officials had the protests under control, and Trump bringing in the National Guard only inflamed tensions. Republicans tell me they disagree.
Next, on to the joint protests in Sacramento, where marches happened today and are continuing tonight. And as we look over Los Angeles, we are joined by our political analyst. How could the political fight over these protests unfold and the future of ICE raids ultimately end? Welcome back. We continue to follow protests across the state after ICE raids happened across Los Angeles on Friday. And since then, President Trump federalized the National Guard, deploying thousands of troops. He is now deploying hundreds of Marines, and there are also threats to arrest Governor Gavin Newsom. A protest is also underway tonight here in Sacramento. I want to bring in ABC 10's Garshpal Sangha, who is live in downtown with more. Good evening, Garshpal.
Yeah, good evening, Alex. And that anti-ICE rally wrapped up about 20 minutes ago, but some of those marchers that were on that three-day march, you can see them still here as they get a bite to eat, refuel before they leave the state capitol. But that group of immigrant families and their advocates wrapped up that grueling three-day march to the state capitol, and they had one message, and they wanted everyone to hear loud and clear. It is time for real immigration reform, and you can take a look at that video. This is a video of a little bit of their walk today from Davis to the state capitol, and their message is to stop deportation, abolish ICE, and create a clear pathway to citizenship for undocumented immigrants across the country. And that grassroots march was around 40 miles long from Vacaville all the way to the state capitol. And back at her live, organizers say this isn't just about policy, it's about people. And they say that long journey symbolizes the sacrifice, the pain, and the strength of immigrant communities living in the fear of separation. So we're going to have much more on this rally this evening. For the most part, from what I can see, it was peaceful, so that is good news, but they had this one message, and they wanted lawmakers to hear it very well. Reporting live from the state capitol, Garshpal Sangha, ABC 10.
All right, Garshpal, thank you so much. And we know earlier today, hundreds demonstrated at Cesar Chavez Plaza and the downtown ICE office. People mobilized in solidarity with Los Angeles, saying that they are standing up for immigrants. We are told these protests have been mostly peaceful, and Sacramento police have been present. And people continue to protest tonight in San Francisco. Just yesterday, police arrested nearly 150 people outside of a downtown ICE office for refusing to leave. Police say demonstrators vandalized the ICE office, nearby buildings, and tagged a Waymo car with anti-ICE graffiti. All but one person arrested has since been cited and released. We're back right after this. All right, welcome back in. We know that we have been covering a lot of ground, so I want to bring in our political analysts, Rob Stzman and Democrat Andrew Acasta. Thank you both so much for joining me tonight. Rob, let me start with you first. What is the goal here for the Trump administration? Why do this?
Well, one, they said they would, so they're following through on something he absolutely said he would do, which is deport illegal immigrants or undocumented immigrants. But he's getting a political goal out of it, too. So if you think of the image now that's become a bit iconic today of the masked man waving the Mexican flag with cars burning in the background, White House loves that. That's the political contrast, excuse me, that they are looking for against deep blue progressive California, and they're succeeding in getting what they want.
Andrew, what are your thoughts? What do you think? Why do you think the Trump administration is doing this?
I think it's exactly as Rob said. I mean, I think this is the the president and his team have manufactured this in a way that now that the riots kicked off, they're sitting back and laughing, having a good time at, just telling everyone, look at California. It's the wrong model. It's the blue state. It's the worst run state in America. And look, and the images that are coming forth, which, yes, there are people that are breaking the law that should be held accountable. But the vast majority of LA was I was watching the UCLA baseball game yesterday. In West LA, there was no riots going on. It wasn't like 1992 when the entire city was on fire. This is a very targeted, small operation that they've now, just focused on and created this narrative that the entire city is on fire.
Rob, let me ask you, do you see this as part of a broader strategy ahead of the 2026 elections?
Well, I think Trump knows this is the issue that he does have the majority of Americans on, is immigration. As he's starting to lose on the economy, as he got into his breakup with his best pal Elon last week, yeah, they're turning the channel back, everyone's attention back to the issue that works for them. They have to be careful, because it's not clear that it will continue to work for them if you are raiding laborers and deporting abuelas who have been here sewing for the last 30 years. That's not the same as the hardened criminals and gangsters, that we're supposed to be rounding up. So I think they have to be careful about overplaying their hand. But at the moment, yeah, this is their winning issue. So they want to keep playing on that field.
Rob, do you think that this is what Republicans voted for when they voted for Trump and they said they wanted immigration reform? Do you think that they thought it would look like this?
I think some of them did, and I think some of them want it to look like this. There'll be consequences to this, though, if it keeps going on. You're going to have more stories of families being torn apart. You're going to have the specter of now military troops on the streets of U.S. cities if this continues this way. And you're not going to have an economic impact. L.A. has to rebuild. I mean, what does the White House really think that workforce looks like to rebuild 7,000 homes in L.A. County and prepare for the Olympics? So there's going to be economic impacts if they continue to put the foot down on the gas this hard.
Andrew, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think, did every voter who voted for Donald Trump, did they want this? Some, but clearly some, again, they didn't think like the first thing we need to do to go after illegal immigration is to go to Home Depot and arrest the guy standing out front. Yeah. That to me, I think that's the overreach. But this is the Trump, he always goes over. There's never like a nuance. It's always like to the nth degree of what we're going to do. And sometimes it works and sometimes it fails miserably. And who will be left holding the bag are Republicans in Congress who are up on the ballot next cycle. And they could get a serious blowback if this overreach spills and someone gets hurt or there's other stories that come out about, families being torn apart. Because I think some of these Republicans in these tough districts are going to say, man, we didn't want this.
Yeah, there are Republicans secretly hoping that Gavin Newsom succeeds in court, regains control of his National Guard, and they're praying those Marines never deploy onto the streets. Because that starts to put a lot of Republicans, in some very uncomfortable positions.
All right, we got to go to break. Thank you guys so much, and we'll be right back after this. All right, and here's a quick check of your weather with meteorologist Brendan Minchef before we go.
Yeah, it was a warm day today, and 89 in Sacramento, 96 though down in Stockton, 94 Modesto, 96 Marysville and Oroville, low 90s in the foothills too. At the moment, we're already in the 70s in Sacramento, but still near 90 in Stockton and Modesto in the mid 90s in the Upper Valley. What we've got working for us here in Sacramento and the Delta right now is a pretty nice Delta breeze. Sustained winds up towards 30 miles per hour in Vacaville and Fairfield right now. Tomorrow will be a similarly warm day. The next few days also near 90, but look at how temperatures drop as we head in towards Father's Day weekend.
All right, Brendan, thank you so much. And look, we know that there is a lot going on, not just in our community, but also in our state. If you want to stay up to date on any of the stories that we have covered, please, please, please check out our ABC 10 Plus TV streaming app. It is free to download to your TV, and you can get caught up on every story and every show that you missed. As always, thank you so much for spending time with us. I'll see you tomorrow.